The smell of roasted chicken hung in the air, mingling with the earthy scent of rosemary and thyme that my mother always insisted on using for Sunday dinners. The long oak table, polished to a high shine, reflected the flickering candlelight that danced ominously in the dimly lit dining room. As I stepped into the house, the rich, buttery aroma wafted through my senses, reaching deep into my stomach and stirring up a mixture of nostalgia and dread. I had not wanted to come. After all, our family dinners lately felt more like battlegrounds than gatherings, each one packed with unspoken resentments and simmering tensions hiding behind the pretense of smiles. As I entered the room, I could see my brother already seated at the table, his blue eyes fixed on his phone. He looked up when I walked in, giving me a brief nod of acknowledgement before returning to whatever video he found more captivating than our family. The sight of him made my heart ache. He had always been my protector, my confidant, but the distance that had grown between us since everything happened felt insurmountable. "Harper," my mother exclaimed as she turned from the kitchen, her apron dusted with flour. "You're just in time. Dinner is almost ready." She brushed a stray hair behind her ear and smiled. It was the kind of smile that said, "Everything is fine," even though I could sense the tension beneath her cheerful front. "Thanks, Mom," I replied softly, forcing a smile of my own. "It looks amazing." I took a place at the table, trying to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. My sister was already there, scrolling through her own social media posts, her long dark hair falling over her face like a curtain, blocking me out completely. The atmosphere was thick with unsaid words, the kind that hang heavily in the air, making it hard to breathe. "I thought you were going to come later," my father said, entering the room with his usual stern expression. He had that commanding presence that could fill a room, the kind that made you instinctively shrink back even if he wasn't angry, just disapproving. He was wearing his favorite navy blue sweater, the one that always smelled faintly of cologne mixed with something metallic, like a reminder of his days in business. "I wanted to make sure I was here for dinner," I responded, trying to keep my tone neutral. I glanced at my brother, who was half listening. I could feel his disinterest, as if he were more inclined to engage with the screen than participate in a conversation with me. "What's on your mind, Harper?" my mother asked, a hint of concern knitting her brows together. She always had a talent for sensing when something was off, even before I knew it myself. "Nothing, just enjoying the family time," I replied, but my voice cracked ever so slightly. I immediately felt exposed, thinking about everything that had happened in the past few weeks, the secret meetings, the whispers, the way my parents had sown distrust into the very fabric of our family. I could feel my heart racing like a caged bird desperate to escape. "Right," my father said, his tone skeptical, "because family dinners are not to be taken lightly." He raised an eyebrow and my mother shot him a warning glance. The tension intensified. "Can we just eat?" my brother interrupted, clearly bored, pushing his phone aside. "I'm starving." His voice was drenched in impatience, and I wished he would just tone it down a little. "Always in such a rush," my mother observed, quickly moving to serve the perfectly browned chicken. "Harper, how is your job hunting going?" She waved the serving spoon in my direction as if baiting me into conversation. I hesitated, my mind racing. "It is all right. I applied to a few places, still waiting to hear back." I tried to keep my voice steady, but the moment I mentioned my job search, I could see pity creeping into her eyes. Pity felt like acid, like everything good about me was dripping away. I avoided her gaze, focusing on the food instead. "Remember, tales of success come from persistence," my father chimed in as he filled his plate, reminding me of the secret expectations that loomed over me like a shadow. "You can't give up." My stomach twisted at my father's words. The man who had cut me off financially just last month, despite the promises he made when I graduated from college, now acted like he cared about my job prospects. I felt a deep bitterness rising within me like bile. It was unfair and hypocritical. Would he have offered the same encouragement if it were my brother sitting at the table? "Please," my sister remarked, finally looking up from her screen with a scoff. "You have it way easier than most people out there. You should be thankful for what you have." The sharpness of her words stung like a slap across my face. "Some of us are struggling." "Excuse me?" I shot back, feeling my face warm with indignation. "What do you know about my struggles?" "Just because I am not posting about them online does not mean they do not exist." I could sense the battle lines being drawn in the air around us, like invisible boundaries that we all refused to cross. "Here we go again," my brother muttered as he slouched back in his chair like he wanted to disappear. It was as if I was speaking to a wall, and it only made me angrier. "Can we at least try to be civil?" my mother interjected, her voice firm yet tinged with worry. "We are family, and family sticks together." "Family?" I retorted, my voice rising. "You mean the family that turns against each other over money and favoritism?" I could not believe what I was saying, but the words spilled from me. "You cut me off without a second thought. You act like I owe you something just because you paid for my college. $50,000 does not erase the years of favoritism." An uncomfortable silence followed, the kind so thick you could cut it with a knife. I could see my mother's expression falter, her cheeks flushing as she struggled to maintain her composure. Harper, my father said slowly, emphasizing each word like a puppet master controlling the strings, this is not the time or place for this discussion. I felt my chest tighten as I fought the urge to push back, to remind them all how I felt betrayed, as if they chose my brother over me since the day he was born. When is the right time, father? When you feel more comfortable pretending everything is fine. My voice trembled, but I stood my ground. Just then my sister let out a booming laugh, an ill-timed sound that echoed off the walls, shattering the moment's tension but also injecting a new strain of contempt. Enjoy your chicken, everyone. Harper is just here to stir the pot as usual. Good job at reading the room, sister. I shot back, feeling my face flush deep crimson. Maybe if you paid attention you would see that things are not as perfect as you pretend. Really. She replied, her tone dripping with sarcasm. And what would you suggest? A family therapy session, please? Enough, my father boomed, dropping his fork as the sound clanged against the porcelain. His face was dark and I could see the anger welling beneath his surface. You all need to put your differences aside for one meal, just one meal, can we do that? His tone was a loud, resonant bell, half a command and half a plea. I took a deep breath, my heart racing as I scanned my family's faces. My mother looked desperate, almost pleading. My brother wore a mask of indifference while my sister's eyes sparkled with mischief, clearly enjoying every moment of our discord. I realized that my voice was trembling not with fear but with pent-up frustration that felt like it might explode. I am tired of pretending, I said, finally settling my glare on my father. You cannot just sweep this under the rug. The favoritism, the money, none of it is right. I felt a thrill of fear and empowerment wash over me, as if I had unlocked a part of myself I had buried deep. The horrifying realization that this dinner might spiral into the most chaotic aftermath began to set in, but I was beyond turning back. I wasn't the one who needed to be fixed, they did. So I opened my mouth, ready to let it all out, ready for a confrontation. Then just when I thought I would spill the truth that had been simmering on my tongue like hot oil, my mother's phone buzzed on the table, vibrating violently like an angry animal, breaking the tension and drawing all of our eyes toward it. What is it? My sister asked, intrigued. My mother looked down, her expression shifting from worry to shock. It is a text from Grandma, she said, her voice shaky. She glanced around at us, confusion and fear mingling in her gaze. She says she has something important to tell us. I froze. Everything inside me snapped into focus, and the air crackled with newfound tension. Had something else shifted within our family, and were we on the verge of uncovering an unexpected twist? As my mother read the message on her phone, the reality of the moment settled over us like a dark cloud, heavy and foreboding. There was a silence, the kind that felt like the calm before a storm, and my heart drummed against my ribcage as I wondered what lay ahead. Would it finally reveal the reasons behind the love and favoritism? Would it finally make sense why our family had crumbled? As I waited for her to say more, I felt my fingers intertwining tightly, a surge of determination flooding through me. I would no longer be the betrayed, the one who stood in the shadows. I would fight for the truth, for justice, and somehow I could sense that whatever lay ahead had the potential to either break us further or bring us together. But right then, with my family standing on the brink of revelation, I hardened my resolve. I would uncover the truth, even if it meant tearing down every facade of loyalty we had left. The air hung thick with uncertainty, and I felt it shift under the weight of the moment that had the power to change everything. I stood in the living room of our house. The faint scent of lavender from my mother's last attempt at making a homemade air freshener lingering in the air as I tried to gather my thoughts. The walls, once a comforting shade of pale blue, felt like they were closing in on me. I could practically hear the memories echoing within them, joyous laughter, sibling quarrels, and the sound of my mother's voice singing lullabies so sweetly in the night. But now it felt like the air was thick with tension, each breath a struggle, as if every inhalation carried the weight of secrets better left hidden. My parents had gone out grocery shopping, leaving my sister and me to sort through stacks of old family documents. It was meant to be a simple task, one that we could rush through before dinner, but I could sense something deeper brewing beneath the surface. My sister had been acting weird lately, her smile lacking its usual warmth, replaced with something colder, almost calculating. I could tell when she was trying to ignore me, those moments where she looked right through me, her hands moving faster as she rifled through papers like it was a race against time. I tried to break the icy silence. Did you find anything interesting, like maybe a treasure map or something? I chuckled, trying to lighten the mood even as my voice trembled with underlying anxiety. She glanced up momentarily, her expression flat. Not really, just boring stuff. I shrugged, my heart sinking. I could feel the tension between us growing, stretching like an unbreakable string. You know, we could talk or something, you can't just avoid me. She dropped a folder onto the coffee table with a thud. Avoid you. I am just busy. Busy with what? I wanted to ask, but the question got stuck in my throat. I felt like I was watching a movie where the characters were hiding something shocking and I was the last to know. Busy with what exactly? We're supposed to be working together. Working, she scoffed, her tone sharp. You think this is a joke? You think this is some family gathering? What was her problem? I could feel my hands shaking with frustration, and I fought the urge to slam my fist down on the table. I just want to know what is going on with you. You've been acting so distant, like something is going on behind my back. The way her jaw tightened told me I had hit a nerve. Why are you always so dramatic? The words hit me hard and I recoiled. I'm not being dramatic, I just care. Is that such a crime? Caring is one thing, she said, her eyes hardening as she crossed her arms. But you wouldn't understand what's really at stake here, would you? I felt anger rising in my throat, hot and bitter like bile. I opened my mouth ready to retaliate, but then I froze, suddenly feeling the weight of the truth hanging between us. What do you mean by that? Are you saying I don't care about this family? She rolled her eyes, leaning back on the worn couch, the fabric scratchy beneath my fingers. You don't even know what's happening. You're too busy living in your little world. I hate that you act like everything is perfect when it is not. Her words stung, harsh and unforgiving, and I could feel my pulse quickening. You really think I don't understand? You think I don't see how things have changed? How our parents are always arguing about money and their stupid plans for the house? They hardly even talk anymore. The mention of money sent a shiver down my spine. My parents never wanted to talk about inheritance, but it was there, hanging over us like a storm cloud. The house wasn't ours yet, but even the thought of splitting it, the property they had bought together for a whopping $400,000, made my chest tight. I'm not ready to let our family fall apart over issues we could fix. She gasped, her face pale. Fix? You think we can fix this? You think we can just ignore that our father has been choosing favorites for years? Favorites? The word echoed in my mind and a knot twisted in my stomach. My father had always shown more interest in her achievements, and I often felt like a footnote in the story of our family. Is this about him? Is this why you have suddenly become so bitter towards me? It's not just about him, she said, her voice trembling. It's about everything. You don't understand what it is like to be the one who is always overlooked. It's always look at my sister, look at my daughter. It's exhausting. I have to deal with feeling compared to you. You think it's easy being in your shadow? She looked at me and I could see a flicker of something in her eyes. Was that guilt? You don't know what I have had to do to keep everything afloat. You don't see how hard I have tried to keep this family from falling apart. A heavy silence fell between us and I suddenly realized how far we had drifted apart. I had always thought she was invincible, the golden child always praised by our parents, while I was left as the underdog. My heart raced at the thought that she might be hiding something even more sinister beneath the surface, a secret that could shatter our already fragile family. What are you saying? I demanded, feeling a shiver travel down my spine. What do you know that I do not? My sister looked away, her lips pressing into a thin line. I need you to trust me. I can't explain everything right now, but trust you after what you just said. My voice rose higher than intended, and the words hung in the air like smoke. You have some kind of secret, don't you? As if the walls were eavesdropping, the door swung open and my mother walked in with a couple of grocery bags, completely oblivious to our rising tensions. She put on her usual chipper smile, holding up a loaf of fresh bread like it was a trophy. Look what I got. Would you believe they had it on sale? A wave of frustration washed over me, and I turned to my sister, who was now staring at my mother with a furrowed brow, a mix of resentment and confusion. I could feel the storm brewing between us again, stronger than ever. We were talking, I snapped at my mother, too loud, too intense. Talking about what? My mother asked, setting the groceries down, concern creeping into her voice. Does it even matter? My sister interjected, her voice sharp enough to cut. It is not like you care about what we think. You have your perfect little life with your perfect little plans. My mother glanced back and forth between us, her cheerful demeanor dimming, her brow creasing into a frown. What is going on? Why are you two acting like this? Because, I blurted out, feeling the weight of so many emotions surge up within me. Because it feels like you chose her over me all the time. You act like she is the only one who matters. I never chose anyone. My mother shot back, her voice quaking. Why would you think that? I do my best for both of you. No, you don't, my sister said quietly. You never do. The words hung in the air, stinging sharper than any accusation could. I could feel the silence closing in, wrapping us up in a thick layer of unresolved feelings. My heart raced as I averted my gaze, unsure how to navigate this minefield. But before my mother could respond, my sister turned away, walking quickly into the other room without another word, leaving me staring at my mother, who looked utterly bewildered. What is happening, Harper? Talk to me, my mother pressed, her tone urgent, giving me no choice but to let everything spill out. I don't know, I murmured, feeling lost, the reality of our crumbling family wrestling in my mind. Everything just feels so wrong. I don't want to lose her, but it feels like we're drifting. Harper. My mother's eyes softened and I could see her trying to connect. Sometimes families go through difficult times. It does not mean we give up on each other. At that moment, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to hold on to the hope that we would come out of this stronger. But instead, it felt like a knot twisting tighter, a whispering uncertainty that wrapped around my heart. Of course, I said, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I will figure it out. But deep down, I felt twisted by feelings of betrayal, by my sister, by my parents, even by the foundation of our home which had become so shaky. I turned to watch my sister disappear into the shadows, the darkness swallowing her whole. There was a secret behind her eyes, and I could feel it calling to me like a chill in the night air. My heart raced in anticipation of what it might reveal. Something was about to break, and I had a feeling that nobody would be prepared for the fallout. As I stood motionless, peering into that darkened room she vanished into, I could hardly breathe. The tension between us was thick, almost palpable, a wall that no amount of family love could tear down. I felt a surge of determination rise within me. I would discover the truth, no matter how deeply buried it was. With thoughts racing through my mind, I knew this fight was far from over. The sound of the door slamming behind me cracked through the air like a gunshot. My heart raced as I stood in the dimly lit living room, the old wooden floor creaking beneath my feet. The scent of stale popcorn and lavender fabric softener hung heavy in the air as I gripped the edge of the sofa. I replayed the confrontation in my mind, each word echoing like an accusation I could not escape. My brother had crossed a line, one I never thought he would dare to. "You think you can just play the victim forever?" he had mocked, the smirk on his face so infuriatingly casual. I had gone pale, feeling the anger wash over me like a wave, threatening to pull me under. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. I was frozen, caught off guard by his audacity. "Harper, are you okay?" My sister's voice broke through my thoughts, soft and filled with concern as she watched me from the kitchen doorway. Her arms were crossed, leaning against the doorframe, the yellow glow of the overhead light framing her silhouette. She always had this way of looking at me, like she could see right into my soul and detect the chaos swirling around my heart. "What did he say to you this time?" I glanced at her, feeling my chest tight. I did not want to spill everything. I did not want to lend any more weight to our family's tension. "It was nothing," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I knew it was a lie even as I spoke it. I could tell by the way my sister stepped into the room, her brows knitting together in disbelief. "Nothing," she said incredulously, taking a few steps toward me, her sneakers whispering across the floor. "You looked like you were about to explode." "What did he do?" The thought of my brother's words, those cruel, cutting words, made my stomach churn. He said I was just chasing Mom's approval like I was some sort of charity case," I admitted, dragging my hands through my hair in frustration. "Can you believe that?" She rolled her eyes, pacing back and forth. Not this again," she said, raising her hands in exasperation. "He does this every time something major happens in the family." "Yeah, like the inheritance reading," I snapped, the bitterness coating my tongue. My throat was dry and scratchy, the familiar weight of the unspoken hanging over us like a thick fog. "He gets all smug about it, like he deserves everything just because he's the golden child. It's so unfair that Mom and Dad chose him over me." For a moment, silence enveloped us, thick and suffocating. My sister's expression softened, and I could see the sympathy in her eyes. But sympathy only ignited my anger further. It was like pouring gasoline on a fire. "Why do they all favor him so much?" I asked, my voice shaking slightly. "What makes him so special just because he fits their expectations of success?" My sister took a careful breath before she spoke, her tone gentle, almost maternal. "It's not about you, Harper. It's about how they see him. Maybe they think he's got a better future ahead of him. He's got money in his savings from that fancy job, the car, the nice apartment. Meanwhile, you're still trying to find your footing." Her words hung in the air, tasting bitter like unsweetened cocoa. I inhaled deeply, biting back my frustration. "That's the problem. I'm trying to carve my own path, and he just keeps belittling me because I do not fit their idea of what success looks like. He's so lost in his own world that he does not see the damage he causes." "But," she said, shifting her weight from one foot to the other, "there has to be a way to make him listen, maybe just a little compromise. I mean, it is worth a shot, right?" A compromise, huh? I considered it, but all I could visualize was a mountain of resentment weighing heavily on my chest, threatening to crush me under its pressure. "You think he would actually listen?" I scoffed, letting a bitter laugh escape my lips. "There is no compromise with someone who thinks they are always right. He gets so caught up in his own reflections that he never sees anyone else's pain. He doesn't care what it feels like for me being constantly compared to him." "I hate to be the bearer of bad news," my sister said, her voice turning serious, "but maybe you ought to talk to Mother and Father about this. It's not fair that they treat you like second best. You should bring it up." And just like that, a spark ignited in my mind. My stomach knotted, excitement and terror rolling together in a chaotic dance. "You really think that would work?" I asked, hope battling against cynicism within me. "Honestly, I do not know, but what I do know is that being silent will get you nowhere. You deserve to fight for what is yours." The thought of standing up to them, of saying the words that had been trapped inside my chest for years, felt both exhilarating and terrifying. I thought of the promises my parents made, reassuring me I would inherit my share. Was that a promise worth fighting for? The feelings washed over me like a tide, deciding in an instant that it was worth it. Okay, I breathed, my mind racing. I can do this. This is my shot. They need to know how it feels, what it has been like for me to be the second choice in my own family. My sister offered a reassuring smile, the corners of her mouth tilting up as she stepped closer, wrapping her arms around me in an embrace that anchored me against the swirling chaos. All right, but just remember you're powerful. Don't let him or anybody else make you feel like less than that, okay? A rush of determination surged through my veins, a warmth that chased away the doubts gathering in my mind. Okay, I repeated, my voice steadier now. I will. Just as I was about to say more, the front door swung open with an obnoxious creak, my brother stepping through, that smirk on his face like a mask I wanted to tear off. The tension in the room shifted instantly, thickening like the air before a storm. The moment I laid eyes on him, my palms began to sweat, anger bubbling beneath the surface. Great, the girl who complains, he announced, his tone filled with mockery as he leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. What did you do this time, Harper? Cry to mother about your imaginary problems? My sister stepped in front of me, glaring at him. Back off, you cannot just come home and start throwing jabs at her. You can't keep doing this. Oh please, he scoffed, shrugging as if her words were nothing. Why do you protect her like she is some kind of princess? Newsflash, she is not. Enough, I shouted, the anger bubbling up like a boiling pot about to overflow. I felt like the heat rose in my cheeks as I stepped around my sister, positioning myself across from my brother. You do not get to boss me around or insult me. You may have gifts and money, but that does not make you better than me. You know what? It is fine you bathe in your own logic, but you are still a small person with no connection to real emotions. He laughed, a sound so irritating that it sent shivers down my spine. You sound desperate, Harper. Just because you think shouting will make your case stronger doesn't mean it actually does. You are just jealous I am what mother and father want. You are just another problem they have to deal with. Every word he said felt like a dagger, twisting deeper into the wounds he had already created. I could feel my hands shaking, both from anger and the adrenaline coursing through my system. I'm not jealous. I'm tired of being treated like a second-class citizen in a house that should feel like home. Suddenly, the atmosphere crackled with tension, the air thick and suffocating. I could nearly hear my heart beating a tattoo against my chest. My brother's expression shifted just slightly, a crack in his facade that I almost missed. In that moment, my realization hit like ice water, a chilling clarity washing over me. He was scared. This was a fight he never expected. Maybe deep down, he sensed the power shifting. Maybe you should be careful what you wish for, Harper, he warned, the playful lilt in his voice gone, replaced by something darker, more serious. I wouldn't want you to end up getting cut off entirely from the will. His words hung heavy in the air, suffocating, chilling me to the bone. I could sense my sister's eyes darting between us, the fear evident in her gaze. You are bluffing, I said, though a tremor laced my voice. Was he really capable of that kind of cruelty? Oh, sweetheart, you don't want to push me, he warned, narrowing his eyes, that smirk creeping back onto his lips wider now as he leaned closer, invading my space. You have no idea how much I could do to ruin you. The realization struck me like a lightning bolt. If he had the nerve to threaten me, what else was he hiding? I felt the weight of it settle in my gut like a stone. I had to fight for what was mine, and I had to do it carefully, strategically. The power shifted as doubt coursed through my veins. If there was anything I could do to expose him, I would do it. Your empty threats do not scare me, I replied, my voice a low, trembling whisper, but my heart pounded fiercely within my chest. If I have to fight for what I deserve, I will do it. With that, I turned on my heel and practically flew towards my room, my breath quickening as I slammed the door behind me. I leaned against it, letting the sound of my brother's laughter float in from across the hall, a malicious reminder that the battle had just begun. But deep down, I felt a sense of relief. It was time to lay bare all the secrets, the bullies, and the sacrifices I had made for my family. I could not shake the feeling that something deeper was at stake, that there was a web of deceit woven throughout our family ties just waiting to be unraveled. And as I glanced at my reflection in the mirror, the determination hardening my expression, I knew I was ready to confront the truth and the darkness lurking beneath our so-called family love. With every ounce of resolve I could muster, I would unearth the reality of our fractured family, revealing the scars and secrets cloaked under the guise of love and loyalty. It wouldn't just be a fight for my share, it would be a fight for everything I had lost. I took one last look in the mirror, letting the fervor build, and whispered to myself, this time I won't back down. The house felt unusually cold as I stepped into the living room, the chill in the air settling deep into my bones. The golden light spilling from the dining room illuminated the faces of my family gathered around the table. Their laughter echoed against the walls, a cruel reminder of the joy they seemed to share while I was drowning in a sea of resentment. I hesitated for a moment, my heart racing as I took in the scene, my parents oblivious to the growing tensions around them, my brother smug with his constant air of superiority, and my sister, the favorite, basking in attention, her smile bright like the summer sun. The atmosphere was thick with the aroma of roasted chicken and mashed potatoes, the comfort of home that I suddenly found suffocating. "Harper, come join us." My mother called out, her voice dripping with a feigned sweetness that I had grown to distrust. I felt a twist in my stomach as I approached the table, every step a reminder of the betrayal simmering just below the surface of our family bond. "We were just talking about our plans for the family vacation next month. Can you believe how quickly this year has gone by?" I forced a smile, but inside I was anything but calm. Vacation? Again. It felt like they were mocking me with their cheerful discussions, especially since the last family trip had ended with my brother being awarded the prized suite, while I was left with the fold-out bed in the cramped corner. "Sounds great," I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. I could feel my hands shaking slightly at my sides, an involuntary response to the pressure mounting within me. "I mean, just look at the itinerary Dad made up," my brother interjected, a smug grin plastered across his face. "I bet it will be a blast, especially since it will be the first time we are all going with the new yacht. I can't wait to show it off." The arrogance in his tone was suffocating. I fought back the sting of irritation prickling at the corners of my vision. The new yacht, bought with some of the inheritance money that should have been shared equally. "You didn't mention you were that excited, Harper. I thought you'd still be sulking about the whole money issue." I froze, a surge of anger coursing through me. "I am not sulking," I shot back, my voice sharper than intended, but the truth rang too close to home. "Just because you happen to be the favorite and everyone caters to you doesn't mean I'm the one unhappy here." The table fell silent. My mother shot me a warning look, her eyes narrowing. "Now, Harper, let's not ruin dinner with negativity. We really do want to enjoy this time together as a family." The tension in my chest only tightened at her words. It felt unfair, so unfair that I was being targeted for merely expressing my thoughts. "Right, Harper, we don't want to take away from Dad's big announcement about the yacht, do we?" My brother's smug expression fueled the fire within me. I could see the laughter in my sister's eyes, her delight at watching me squirm, a clear indication of where I stood in this twisted competition for approval. "What's the big announcement?" I asked, feigning ignorance, though I knew exactly what he meant. The yacht might be shiny and new, but it wasn't the only thing that had been polished to perfection. "Something about the extra funds you got to make it?" My brother leaned in, his voice dripping with condescension. "You could say that. My commission from the sales was hefty this past quarter, and Dad decided to reward hard work." The word reward hung heavy in the air, mocking me as if I would ever have a share in the accolades that my brother so easily accrued. Maybe I was just an afterthought left to chase the scraps. I clutched my glass of lemonade tightly, nails digging into the plastic, feeling the coolness bite into my palm as I tried to keep my emotions in check. "That's great. I mean, the yacht sounds amazing," I forced out, hating myself for playing along, hating this sick game of favorites we'd been forced into. My father picked up on the tension, his brows furrowing as he turned his attention toward me. "Harper, you need to work on your attitude. You've been unfocused lately, and it reflects in everything you do. You might want to take a leaf out of your brother's book," he said, and my heart sank. Why couldn't he see? Why could he not realize that I was being pushed to the side, overshadowed in every crossroad of this family life? My brother sat back smugly as I felt the heat rise to my cheeks, embarrassment mixing with anger. "I'm fine, Dad," I replied, fixing my gaze on my plate as struggling feelings churned within me, the very core of who I thought I was shaken to the ground. I wasn't fine, and they all knew it, but admitting it was like throwing gasoline on the fire. "I just want the best for you. This whole process of learning to step up and take responsibility is what's going to get you places," my father continued, oblivious to the storm brewing under the surface of this polite family facade. The annoyance that bubbled from within made my voice crack as I replied, "Maybe I don't want to be like him. Maybe I want to do things my way." "Your way doesn't seem to be working, does it?" my brother retorted, and I could feel a cold wave of resentment washing over me, crashing against the delicate surface we were trying to maintain. "Maybe you should just face it. You are failing to keep up, and it's reflecting in your attitude." It felt like a slap, tears welled up in my eyes, the sting of my brother's words echoing painfully against the walls of my heart. I could sense the condescension behind those words, the unspoken reality that I was a burden and not someone worthy of love and respect. "That's enough," my mother intervened, her voice soothing but stern. "We don't need to dredge up old arguments at the dining table." But my brother leaned forward again, fixing a predatory gaze on me. "It's all about the money, isn't it? If only Mom and Dad had given you what you wanted, maybe you would have learned by now to be grateful and get your act together." His words ignited a fire within me, and I snapped. "You don't know anything about what I want." You think your inheritance is some golden ticket? I don't want any part of your pigsty treats. I only want what is rightfully mine. Silence fell again, the type that could make even the loudest of arguments seem like whispers in the background. My family stared at me, a mix of disbelief and shock played out on their faces like a poorly directed movie. The tension felt almost tangible, wrapping around us like a thick fog. Harper, my mother exclaimed, her tone sharp enough to cut. Do you even hear yourself? How can you be so disrespectful? But she is right, my sister finally chimed in, a soft voice laced with cunning sweetness. We should be open about these things. We all know Dad has been talking to us about the inheritance and how it's going to be divided once everything settles. Maybe you should hear it from your brother how lucky you are. Lucky, I repeated, my emotions bouncing from disbelief to fury. Lucky to be cut off, lucky to be second best. You all seem happy blowing cash on yachts while I'm just here waiting for my turn. And you all act like I am to blame for wanting to get what is fair. The temperature shifted in the room, and for the first time I saw my brother's smile falter, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Maybe I had finally struck a nerve, rousing the beast of family secrets and hidden truths that had been lurking beneath the surface far too long. Suddenly, the tension erupted. My brother leaned closer, fists resting on the table, palms pressing down. You think you deserve something? You don't know what it's like to work for it. The yacht, the trips, the money, it's all earned, and you just want to sit back and reap the rewards without breaking a sweat. Maybe I wouldn't feel so alienated if I was allowed to step up. I cried, fists trembling with frustration. You think this is about money? You've got it all wrong. It's about being seen, being valued. My mother sighed deeply. She seemed exhausted by our exchanges, her temper dropping into fatigue. Enough, I can't listen to this anymore. You both need to figure it out. We're family. Family, I scoffed. Is that what we are? Because if this is family, then cut me off. I'm done. I stood then, the heat of outrage coursing through me as I took a step back from the table. The moment I turned on my heel and stormed toward the door, I could feel their eyes on me wide, disbelieving. I slammed the door behind me, the force shaking the walls of our home, echoing my internal frustration and betrayal. Just as I reached the quiet of the hallway, my heart pounding, I overheard a hushed conversation. The door remained partially open and I strained to listen. Do you really think that she can handle this? I heard my mother whisper, her voice tremulous. We can't keep pretending everything is fine when it's not. What if she pushes too hard? She'll figure it out. If she can't accept how things are, then she won't last long here, my brother shot back, the certainty in his tone cutting deeper than any words. We had to be tough to make it. She needs to learn the same. She needs to learn she will never get what she thinks she deserves. The final nail in the coffin, the realization that I was the burden they all wished to discard, hit me like a tidal wave. My chest tightened with determination, anger bubbling beneath the surface, stirring something deep inside me, a will to fight back, to reclaim what they had stolen. I was done playing their games. I took a deep breath, feeling an unfamiliar strength surge through me. This was not over. I was going to change the narrative, to take control of the story that had spun out of my hands. They thought they could ignore me forever. They thought I was nothing but a shadow in their lives. Little did they know I was ready to rise above, to reclaim the injustice that had been bestowed upon me. I would not just sit back and be silenced. A plan began to form in my mind, fueled by the very anger they had toyed with. As I stormed away from the table, I could feel their identity as my family start to unravel, the ties that bound us fraying at the edges. No more. It was time to show them the true meaning of resilience. And revenge was just the beginning. I stood at the edge of the family living room, the smell of freshly baked cookies wafting in from the kitchen, but I couldn't care less about the sweet aroma that usually filled my heart with warmth. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and it felt like the entire room was encased in glass. Any sudden movement might shatter the fragile peace. My mother was pacing, her hands fidgeting with the necklace that my father gave her just after their wedding. She had always worn it like a badge of honor, but today it felt like a noose. My brother was slumped in the chair, his face buried in his hands, and my sister stood near the fireplace, arms crossed tightly, her disappointment radiating from her like a dark cloud. And then there was my father, the center of this storm, sitting in his favorite recliner, the king surveying a crumbling kingdom. How could you do this, father? I finally found my voice, a mix of anger and disbelief bubbling up to the surface. You chose them over me, didn't you? All those years of pretending we were a family, and this is how it ends? His eyes flickered, a brief flicker of surprise crossing his face. Harper, you don't understand, he began, his voice low and controlled, but I could see the tension in his jaw. This is about what is right for the family. What about what is right for me? I shot back, my heart racing. You have no idea how it feels to be constantly shoved aside in favor of someone else. I gestured angrily towards my sister, who looked like she was preparing for a battle. You mean how it feels to be my father's favorite? She injected, her tone sharp as a blade. You really think I wanted this? I wanted a family that wasn't so torn apart by jealousy and lies. Lies, I echoed incredulously. You're the one who lied to the whole family. You acted like you cared. Enough, my mother interjected, stepping in between us, trying to play the peacemaker. But I noticed the way her voice wavered, how she clutched that necklace tighter like it could shield her from the chaos unfolding around her. This isn't helping anyone. We need to discuss what happened with the inheritance and how we can resolve it calmly. My brother finally looked up, his brow furrowed. Calmly? You want us to approach this calmly when we're being cut off? You of all people should understand why I am furious. He slammed his fist on the table, the clatter echoing through the room, making the air grow colder. I was doing what I thought was best, my father pleaded, the edge of defeat creeping into his voice. It was not an easy decision. Not an easy decision for who? I challenged, my chest tightening with each breath. You or me, because I am the one losing everything here. The trust, the family support, the money. I threw my hands up towards him. You are giving away a third of your savings, $50,000 to your new favorite family members when I am standing right here, your daughter who needed it more than anyone. Do not bring money into this, my father snapped sharply. It was strange how his anger could transfix his demeanor, but I could sense the fear lurking beneath it. This is about more than just money, Harper. This is about loyalty, ties that bind us. Loyalty? I scoffed, bitterness curling my lips. You abandon the loyalty you were supposed to have for your children. Do you not see how unfair this is? We've done everything for you, my sister chimed in, her voice suddenly softer but filled with an icy edge. You get attention, you get to choose your path, and all we did was watch you float on by. I thought you wanted to be independent. I never asked to be put on a pedestal, I admitted, feeling the weight of her words sink in. In that moment, I felt both exposed and imprisoned by the reality of my situation. And by pushing me aside, you all practically begged me to fight for my place. I tried so hard to be good enough for you. Good enough, my brother's eyes smoldered with intensity. You could have made it easier for all of us. Instead, you chose to wallow in your self-pity. We have all made sacrifices. Sacrifices? I interrupted him. You think you all made sacrifices? I had a life plan that had been supported only by the idea that my family would be behind me. But now, with all this drama, I do not think that is the case anymore. You really think I chose this? He retaliated, his throat tightening as he swallowed hard. You are making me feel like I am the villain for wanting a semblance of home. Maybe it is you who do not understand the family dynamic. A heavy silence fell as we all processed his words. It was like a sudden winter storm sweeping through the room, chilling every heart. I could feel the weight of despair pressing down on me. I didn't ask to be a part of your drama. All I wanted was a father who cared enough to see the truth and not just who he viewed as the choice worthy of favor. I never meant to betray you, my father finally said, looking directly at me. In that moment, I saw the guilt etched in his features, the flashes of regret snapping like fragile twigs in the wind. But you did, I stated quietly, feeling the tears slide down my cheeks despite my efforts to contain them. You left me behind. You chose them over your own blood. Yes, he confessed, his voice gravelly. And it wasn't easy. I thought it was the right decision for all of us. Do you even care? I asked, my voice thick with emotion. I felt the familiar sensations of betrayal taking root deep within me, spreading like poison. You care that you just made me feel like I do not belong? I care, Harper, I do care, he insisted, but the more he said it, the emptier it felt. Caring is not enough anymore, I said, my heart racing with the strength of my anger. You've broken the trust that was supposed to hold this family together. You don't get to just choose who deserves your support. My sister scoffed. You have everything handed to you, we all know that. I have stood in your shadow, and now this is my moment to be seen. You could have done this the right way. Right way? I challenged, my blood boiling over with fury. You think there's a right way to stab your own sister in the back? Do you not see the wounds you are creating? At that moment, my mother stepped in, her eyes pleading. Enough, everyone, this is tearing us apart. Her voice cracked, the delicate tremor echoing through her usually steady tone. We are family, we need to remember that. Family? I spat back. Then why did you let it come to this? You should have fought for us. I watched all of you tear apart everything we built just for a quick buck and a fake understanding of loyalty. Enough, my father shouted, slamming his hand against the table, rattling the fine china. I cannot take this anymore. The silence that followed felt suffocating. The ticking of the clock on the wall became deafening, every second stretching into an eternity. I could see the worry glimmering in my mother's eyes as she looked between us like she was watching a tragic play unravel. The room felt like it was shrinking, the walls closing in on us. I could feel my entire world shifting, my heart racing as I tried to orient myself. The ties that bound us no longer felt like family, they felt like shackles. And as I stood there, trembling and furious, I made a decision. I would not be trampled on. I would not let resentment fester into bitterness. I would turn this around, not just for me, but for my future, my dreams, and my dignity. I needed to reclaim my place, even if it meant turning the tables on those I loved most. With newfound determination, I took a breath and turned to my father. You may have given up on us, but I am not going to let you off the hook. We are not done here. There will be consequences for what you have done. My words hung in the air, a promise and a threat interwoven. I wouldn't walk away quietly from this betrayal. And just as I felt a spark of empowerment ignite within me, the door swung open with a creak, and there stood my grandfather, his presence filling the room. The sudden silence left by our argument was broken only by his slowly advancing footsteps. The look on his face told me that he had overheard everything. My heart raced anew, unsure how he would react to this family drama unraveling at his feet. "Well," he said slowly, his voice rumbling like thunder. "What have we here?" The room fell into a stunned silence once more. In that moment, I knew this was only the beginning of a much larger battle for our family's very foundation. The reckoning was at hand, and I was ready to fight back, no matter the cost.